Welcome back to FryMinis. I'm Eric, and today in our Monsters of the Multiverse coverage, we're going to take a look at Duergar. Okay, so hair update number 957. The situation continues to spiral out of control. Not sure at what point the hair becomes me instead of me having hair. This might be the end of it, everybody. This might be as far as I continue to exist as a person and not just a hairball. So please wish me luck. All right, Duergar, gray dwarves, Duergar. I don't like Duergar. Where's the Ugar come from? I say Duergar. I think Duergar makes sense to me. Duergar. Explain how that one works. So I'm going to say Duergar. If you want to say something else, that's cool. Leave a comment how you would pronounce it, but we're going to say Duergar. All right, so just like the deep gnomes, the Snurveblin, I like these. I like these kind of like underdark offshoots of surface races. I think it's just a cool concept in general. So let's take a look at some of the lore here. Duergar are dwarves whose ancestors were transformed by centuries living in the deepest places of the Underdark. That chthonic realm is saturated with strange magical energy, and over centuries, early Duergar absorbed traces of it. They were further altered when mind flayers and other aberrations invaded and performed horrific experiments on them. Fueled by Underdark magic, those experiments left early Duergar with psionic powers, which have been passed down to their descendants. In time, they liberated themselves from their aberrant tyrants and forged a new life for themselves in the Underdark and beyond. Like other dwarves, Duergar typically have a lifespan of 350 years. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind with this book, it's designed to give all these races a relatively compact version of their lore that you can theoretically plop into any kind of world. Assuming, of course, it has an Underdark here, just like the other one's assuming it has a Feywild. So there's still a disconnect there that I don't really understand why we kept those connections or the goal of that direction, but whatever. We've cut out stuff like that the Duergar aren't happy. Like they can't appreciate beauty because of the psionic stuff the mind flayers did. Which, like, I get it. Role playing, that can get challenging, but that's kind of what makes them to me. It's not, to me, something like that is different than all drow are evil. You know, like okay, sure. Of course, there are going to be exceptions like that. It's built in from the start that there are always exceptions to alignment. But something like this, that seems like a biological thing that they developed over time and that emotional block. But that's not here anymore, and that's okay. If you want it in your world, just add it back in. I think that's a common thing you're going to see throughout all of these little lore snippets. Compressed lore snippets for these races. All right, so looking at just structurally, just like everything else in the book, we've got that same +2/+1 or 3+1s for our abilities, a common plus another language, height and weight and age typically average to like a human or about a century. Of course, here we're calling out 350 years. Similar stuff across the board. And looking at our actual Duergar traits, you are humanoid. You are also considered a dwarf for any prerequisites or effects that require you to be a dwarf. You are medium, and you have a 30-foot walking speed. Plus, you've got 120 feet of dark vision. So this plus the deep gnome, where we just say dark vision and that gives the number. I think the superior dark vision language is just gone, which, okay, that's fine. And I'm so excited to see what this like racial tag, this like subgroup of you're humanoid, you are X, but you're also counting as this. I can't wait to see where that goes in future books. I'm telling you, I'm really hoping for like racial feats, maybe like racial classes. I don't know. Like, I know we just got rid of Bladesinger being elf specific, but with these like opened up groups, who knows? I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential here. It just totally depends on how they execute. Duergar Magic. Starting at 3rd level, you can cast the Enlarge Reduce spell on yourself with this trait, without requiring material component. Starting at 5th level, you can also cast the Invisibility spell on yourself with this trait, without requiring material component. Once you cast either of these spells with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast these spells using spell slots you have of the appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells when you cast them with this trait. Choose when you select this race. So here's a great example, I think, of streamlining. So of course, you know, I love you get to pick your modifier, you get to use your spell slots, you get that free casting of it that lets you reinforce your character or your like racial abilities by using those spell slots if you really want to lean in on it. I think that's great. Invisibility, of course, is always going to be an excellent spell. And Enlarge Reduce, I love Enlarge Reduce. I feel like people sometimes sleep on Enlarge Reduce. Like that extra D4 of damage you get if you enlarge is great. But the advantage on the strength checks, and then just all the stuff that you can get into kind of exploration wise, if you go small or if you go large, there's so much to it. I think just like role play wise, I think his hair is ridiculous. Is great. And before, you could only use the enlarge aspect of the spell, but now we're just getting rid of it. You can just cast the spell. It's just so much easier. And I get like Duergar traditionally, like that's their thing, is they're medium and then they can become bigger. Let's just let them get smaller. That's fine. I think it's great. 2 really, really good spells. Solid win. Dwarven Resilience. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poisoned condition on yourself. You also have resistance to poison damage. All right, so this is attached to Duergar because Duergar are no longer sub-race. And I don't think sub-races are going to be a thing anymore. All those individuals, just like the Deep Gnome, they're all standalone races. So we're bringing in some of that dwarf, some of the stuff you get from being a dwarf and then your sub-race. Now we're just melding that in here. So that's cool. That's great. I'm on board. Psionic Fortitude. You have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed or stunned condition on yourself. All right, so this one's interesting. So it used to be charmed or paralyzed. And while paralyzed is a far worse condition than stunned, I feel like stunned is a far more common condition than paralyzed. So ultimately, I think that's a good call because you're getting more use out of it. And that's with the thumbnail where we have Duergar are great against monks. So those stunning strikes. So if you're ever the dungeon master and you have a monk in your party and they just keep stunning strike everything and you get annoyed, just throw some Duergar at them and see how that works out. So not a major critical change here, but I think it's nice. I think it's a good quality of life improvement. All right, so Duergar, I think this is a great win. And one of the big things that's missing here now is sunlight sensitivity. That's just gone. So no more disadvantage on perception checks in sunlight. No more disadvantage on those attacks. No more trying to figure out, is there shade over here? Is the creature standing in the alley? So maybe it's not the bright sunlight that it is outside of the alley. No more of that. It's just gone, which great. I mean, that's obviously a massive buff. All right. So what do you think of the Duergar? Let me know in the comments. Check us out, FryMinis.com. And of course, keep your eyes out on the playlist. We're going to keep adding more and more videos here as we work our way through this massive list of playable races. Thanks for watching.